I cannot be the only one in DC watching my discretionary spending right now, but you still want to go out and have a good time, right? So where in DC can you see world-class artists for free? The Library of Congress. They have presented live music in one of the city's most iconic spaces for more than 100 years. The library is seriously so gorgeous. I checked out their schedule, and there are some things on there that I am genuinely excited about checking out. On April 1st, we have opera singer Janae Bridges with the Catalyst Quartet. Let me tell you, I looked up a video of her singing, and sis has pipes. On May 15th, we have jazz great Christian McBride, who is a 9-time Grammy winner. And on June 4th, we have DC native, Howard alum, and rising jazz singer Ekep Nkwele. The Library of Congress has such a wide range of events, there is truly something for everyone. Tickets are available now at loc.gov/concerts. See a show that's sold out? Don't sweat it. The Library of Congress offers day of rush passes to all performances. So see what's coming up at loc.gov/concerts. Today on CityCast DC. I used to take Black History Month for granted. I grew up in a home where my parents were pretty serious about honoring Black heritage, so it was easy to overlook how precious that foundation was. But honoring Black history has taken on extra significance for me this year. And we're lucky to live in a city that offers so many ways to deepen our appreciation of how Black heritage and history have shaped our lives. Case in point, the MLK Library. Because the MLK Library is so much more than just books. It's also the People's Archive, a living, breathing collection honoring DC's vibrant Black cultural, social, and political history. So let's revisit a conversation I had a while back with Maya Thompson and Derek Gray, who both worked there and both agree that at a time when our history is under attack, preserving and celebrating Black history is more important than ever. Today's Wednesday, February 4th. I'm Bridget Todd, and this is what DC is talking about. Hey, Derek. Hey, Maya. How's it going?
Hi. How are you?
It's going really great.
So the MLK Library is so much more than just a library. I actually went to a lovely, swanky rooftop party there not too long ago. It really has so much history inside, and I don't think people really have an idea of all the different types of stuff they can learn there. So, Derek, I understand that you've been working at the DC Public Library for 16 years. You are pretty much the experts. What are some of the different kinds of exhibits that folks can check out in the library?
So we have our permanent exhibit, which is Up from the People, which is a wonderful exhibit located up on the 4th floor of the MLK Library. And it's pretty much dedicated to King's message of activism in DC and connects local leaders to him. The narrative, unfortunately, with King in DC is that, his story is very relatively simple, that he came to Washington, D.C. in August of 1963 for the March on Washington and, gave his speech, and that was it. And that is not it. His story is much more broader and much more significant. And the Up from the People exhibit showcases just how the civil rights activism that was being done had started before King even came to D.C. and after. And what I like about it is how the exhibit showcases that D.C. leaders such as Walter Fauntroy and Marion Barry, these folks, and Nannie Helen Burroughs, these folks actually shaped his work and he shaped theirs. The exhibit also focuses on how materials in the People's Archive tell that story. King worked with a lot of local organizations, a lot of civic associations, churches, and schools, advocating for civil rights and home rule in DC. And we have those materials in our collection.
One of the things I love about DC's history and legacy of activism is the role that things like culture and arts and music played in activism. Do you have stuff demonstrating that folks can check out there?
Yes, we do. The exhibit also, it's divided into two parts. The Revolution of Values, which focuses on King, and then also DC Represented, which covers local politics and history, and also culture and art. And that side of the exhibit focuses on the cultural impact of go-go and punk music in particular, to showcase that, these types of movements and this activism is also documented in the cultural arts, particularly music.
And Maya, I want to ask you about this because it's really clear to me that these exhibits have been so intentional about preserving specifically DC's Black history, which is so important at a city like DC. What is the significance of this?
I think it's so important that the library and the People's Archive has this Black Studies focus, particularly because at the time when the Black Studies collection was founded in the 1970s, which was at the same time as Black Studies was being fought for across the country, DC had a majority Black population. And as we all know, that population has shifted as the city's become more gentrified. So I think it's so important that we try to preserve the legacy of Black history and the Black residents of this city as that population changes.
Well, especially given that, you see attacks on the ability to study and preserve our history all over the nation. And so I think it's extra important in DC that we're really telling that story, to be like, no, we were here. We've always been here. We're a big part of the legacy of DC, and folks need to know about it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. That fight has been so cyclical, which is really unfortunate. But it really shows that the Black residents of DC want their stories told. Not only did they fight for the library to be dedicated to Martin Luther King, but they wanted this collection, they wanted these stories to be told, and we owe it to them as the People's Archive to preserve that and to make sure that we are telling the narratives in a way that is inclusive and accessible to everyone.
Ready for discovery? South by Southwest is where the world's most curious, inspired, and eclectic minds gather to shape what's next. It's the ultimate gathering for the global creative community, where thought leaders, filmmakers, musicians, and other professionals across industries share the same space. Innovation, film and TV, music, and culture all collide when the 2026 South by Southwest conferences and festivals take over Austin, Texas, this March 12th through 18th. For one electric week, the city becomes a playground for boundary-pushing ideas, world premieres, and live performances that turn into beneficial experiences. Gain real access to new ideas, people, and opportunities that don't happen anywhere else. It's a citywide experience built on curiosity, connection, and the thrill of discovering something before everyone else. Start planning your adventure and secure your badge now at sxsw.com/DC. You mentioned that residents fought to have the library be a memorial to MLK. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, I think I should pass it to Derek for this one.
Okay, Derek, you're up.
All right, I'm up. Okay, no problem. Thanks, Maya. Yeah, in fact, that is really a very important part of the exhibit, and also a favorite collection item, if you will. Shortly after Dr. King was assassinated, there were efforts to memorialize him all over the country, and particularly here in DC. And immediately, city residents began a letter writing campaign to name the new Central Library after Dr. King. And the People's Archive also includes the records of the library, which is a wonderful collection going all the way back to the 1890s. And in that large collection, it's about 400 boxes of material. There are about 40 to 50 letters that we have from young people, adults, business folks, civic associations, and pretty much just, Washingtonians demanding that the library be named after Dr. King. And some of those letters are in the exhibit. There are some also that the people wrote talking about that they do not want the library to be named after King. Thankfully, there are very few of those. But there is one from a woman who actually claimed that for her, it's not about race and the library should remain named after Andrew Carnegie. And this person predicted there would be a lot of problems in the city if the library was named after Dr. King.
It almost sounds like a threat.
It was very alarming. But thankfully, it's almost very lopsided. There are a lot more letters in support. And what I'm hoping to find is that a lot of that collection is what's called unprocessed. A lot of those materials have not been gone through yet. So I'm hoping that there are actually more than just the 40 to 50 that we have discovered. And I would also just like to touch on this very quickly, that I hope that there are more records in the collection that document something that was told to me several years ago by a former library director. She was a children's librarian at the time when the Board of Trustees met for the final vote. And long story short, there were folks in the room who wanted the library to be named after Malcolm X, actually, and not Dr. King. And she claimed that the Malcolm X folks were saying, King had been too conservative, not radical enough. And then all of a sudden, apparently, there was a shift in the room. So like the pro-King folks got a little bit more vocal. The Malcolm X folks were overruled. So I guess my point is that it's just very interesting how in Black history, which is something that one of the things I love is this whole quote unquote debate between King and Malcolm X, and how, according to this one person, that debate, if you will, came to the library. And I just hope that we find more material, because that was just one basic oral history from one person. But, if there are other folks around who were in the room at that time, or if there are other records, I hope we could find those.
Well, I think that really demonstrates that oftentimes it's these intra-community tensions that make our community so multifaceted and interesting and dynamic. Like, we're not a monolith. And it's nice to get these historical reminders of the places where we maybe did have tension within the community. I think it's what makes us us. It's what makes us special in my book.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're not a monolith. And, if there was that debate, great, all the more reason that makes our history so fascinating. It just speaks to the diversity in the community.
I also love to think about the public library as a site of protest, a site of debate. It really shows that we're not only demonstrating a history of protest in our exhibitions, but the people of DC are really part of that, and they claim the library as their own. So that's something I really love about the stories that we're telling. It's not it's not a story that's separate from us. We are part of the story as DC residents.
So both of you have mentioned a few times that these exhibits are built sort of off the back of the People's Archive. For folks who don't know, what is that?
So the People's Archive was once known as the Washingtoniana Division and later Special Collections. It is a repository that consists of 3 separate collections. So we have the Black Studies collection that we've talked about a bit, which was once a circulating book collection, but now is a special collection of Black Studies books founded in 1972. We have the Washingtoniana Division, which is a repository for local DC history and culture. And then we also have the Peabody Room, which focuses on Georgetown history, and that is based at the Georgetown Neighborhood Library. So the bulk of the collection is based at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library downtown on the 4th floor of the library.
And what do folks use it for? What kind of documents might you find there if you went exploring?
We have so many different kinds of materials: photograph collections, historic newspapers, maps, building permits, manuscripts of notable Washingtonians, all kinds of materials. I think one popular thing people do is come in and research the history of their homes. People come in to do genealogical research. So there are a lot of different things that you can come research. If it has to do with local Black history and culture, then we may have something that pertains to that.
So let's say that I or someone listening wanted to come in and explore. Where do I start? Do I have to have a specific inquiry that I want to find out XYZ specific thing about my home or my family? Or, how specific do I need to get in order for this to be something that I can actually use?
So the more specific, the better. But if you come in and only have a vague idea of what you're looking for, we're happy to help you narrow that down. So you can just come up to our information desk and have some sort of question or topic, and we can help you figure out what you're really looking for and what type of material might help you. We're just here to help you explore and discover things in our collection. And we love to help people do that. It doesn't matter if you're an academic, a student, or, just one of our neighbors. We just really want everyone to be able to use this collection and feel like it's something that is for them and not something that is unattainable to them.
Can people contribute if they want?
Oh, absolutely. We're always collecting things. Right now, we are definitely focused on topics such as go-go, history and culture, Latinx culture in DC, Ethiopian history and culture in DC. But we would love to talk to you about anything that you'd like to donate. I feel like what I love about the People's Archive is we try to make sure that everyone knows that they have a part of the DC story. So we are always open to talking to folks about what they might have to contribute to that story and make it more inclusive.
Okay, final bonus round question for both of you. What do you think is the coolest thing that is in there? Or your favorite artifact in the archive? Derek, let's start with you.
All right. Well, after 16 years, that's just a little hard. But okay, I'll say this. One of my favorite items is we have a list of rules for the library from 1924. And it's just pretty comical compared to the rules of the library now. All gentlemen had to remove their hat. Mm-hmm. A library fine was 5 cents. That's one. And of course, the letters that I had mentioned before of naming the library after Dr. King. Those are just two. I have a long list. Sorry, we'll be here all day if I go through everything. But that's just mine.
And Maya, what about you? Favorite thing in the archive? Coolest thing you think is there?
I would say a few years ago, I was going through the Julius Hobson collection, and I stumbled across a letter that was written and signed by James Baldwin, and I just gasped. I definitely think that's the coolest thing in the collection. It makes me feel like there are just magical moments in the collection when you find something and you feel like the archive is speaking back to you. And that was one of those moments for me. I wish I could remember what box it's in, but maybe if you come into the archive, you might be able to stumble upon it magically as I did. But there are definitely amazing things there, some that we know about and some that we don't. So I really encourage people to come in and find something amazing.
Thank you for those gems. Derek, Maya, thank you both for the work you're doing and for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with your favorite DC history buff. And to support the work that we do, become a CityCast DC neighbor. You can do that at membership.citycast.fm. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.